Good morning. It is 6:49 a.m. on Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. I feel like I'm more bleary-eyed than usual even, or or less that and more that I just literally sat down and started the recording with almost no thought whatsoever given to what I was going to talk about. Not that I usually put a lot of thought into it, but 15 to 30 seconds of, what should I talk about sometimes occurs, but not today. So here I am rambling about that process. Um, what did I even do last night? Let's see. I played a little bit more, a couple of more VR games with my Vive. There was a Spider-Man Homecoming one, which a lot of kind of like I said with the Ready Player One Oasis beta one that I tried over the weekend. There's several of these types of things that are pretty short overall, but well produced for what's there. And the Spider-Man Homecoming one was like that too. It just has basically, um, it's you can play the whole thing in 10 minutes, and but it basically has you on a pretty well realized rooftop. Um, you're running through a couple of little challenges for like how to different modes of Peter's web shooters, and then you have a couple of things where you're like shooting bottles and grabbing stuff. But it's all pretty fun because in addition to actually following the instructions of the challenges, you can grab an oil barrel and then whip it around, and the physics of it is a little wonky but in a fun way, like where you can grab stuff and then like whip it with the webs like super high up in the air, and it's pretty fun. And then it has just a brief little scripted sequence where you see the vulture doing something across town, and you swing up onto a crane and stuff like that. And it's like I said, you can play the whole thing in 10 minutes, but the 10 minutes of it is fun. And then also there was a like just a little roller coaster one that was that one I think was just like a repurposing of an older one, and I don't know, those it was that one was less impressive. And then there was one called La Camellia, which or Camilla. I don't remember now if it was Camellia or Camilla, but that one was really interesting because it wasn't super interactive, despite a couple of things making it seem like it was going to be more interactive than it was. But primarily, what it was is this little sort of stop motion style short film presented in the context of VR, where uh, for the most part, you're watching this whole thing like it's a little diorama in front of you in this really sort of imaginative little landscape that features a man and his daughter who live in this weird place and apparently can ride thunderclouds and have an important job to put out fires in that regard. And it's all pretty abstract and unusual, so there's not a lot of you can follow the emotional arc of the thing without having to understand, like, well, how did they come to be here? What is their job? How do they live? And all of these sorts of things. Um, but it's really pretty interesting. Like, and occasionally the little bits of interactivity there are you zoom in to various parts of it occasionally before zooming back out to the diorama mode again. And with the exception of a little bit of a motion sickness element late in the story, when you're following uh, one of the characters on a storm cloud as they swoop around, um, I've actually gotten pretty good where I don't get motion sick super fast with these things. A lot of the uh, a combination of getting acclimatized to it plus software just being better at managing it means that I have not really had to deal with the motion sickness element that much recently, like when playing these VR games. But did a little bit towards the end of that one. That said, the rest of it was really interesting, and very much a lot of these VR apps are still in a sort of experimental mode. It's interesting to see how it's all developing because obviously when you have something like Ready Player One, it shows this, like this oasis and the idea that people have spent all their time there. Um, Now, obviously, part of the whole idea in that one is that it's a dystopia outside, and people spend all their time in VR because it sucks so much in the real world. And I would not say that our real world is a dystopia. So I mean, bad stuff happens, but there's also a lot of good stuff too. So in any event, um, so far VR is really interesting and exciting technology, but I definitely think as it continues to grow and evolve, it's not. I don't think it's. Well, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how it continues to grow and evolve. And obviously, once the technology becomes even more accessible and even more comfortable, which obviously that's the trend, we'll see how that maybe shifts things. There might be a tipping point at some point. So, anyway, I will talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes.